Dear friends, Juan Enrique Toro here, greeting you on this fine day, delivering a short message for you entitled, Stay Awake, Stay Awake. I read this in scripture the other day, and I loved it. I want to share it with you today. This is from Matthew 24:42 to 44. And Jesus is speaking, and he says very simply, Stay awake, stay awake. He says, for you do not know on which day your Lord will come, but be sure of this. If the master of the house had known the hour of night when the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and not let his house be broken into. So you too must be prepared. For at an hour you do not expect, the Son of Man will come. I love this. So we need to ask ourselves, what is Jesus talking about with this little story here? He says, stay awake. We can understand that. But then he talks about this owner of the house and the thief comes to rob. So who is the thief? What is the thief stealing? And how do we stay awake? That's what we're going to address today. Well, obviously, Jesus is talking about our state of consciousness. He's talking about staying aware of who and what we truly are. To adopt our witness self, our observer, to be in the present moment. We have all these wonderful ways of explaining this. To not be identified with the mind and the emotions, but to see them, to observe them, to be at a certain distance of them so that we know that we are the observer. We're observing that which is happening in our body, in our mind, in our emotions. And when we can observe them, we are not them. We're not identified with them. We're free of them. And when we're free of them, we are in our authentic self. And when we're in our authentic self, we are more centered, we're more peaceful, we have an opportunity to express compassion, our judging mind is quieted, right? And so in that expression, we come to enjoy what we call the kingdom of heaven. When we're in that observer self, we're in the present moment. And our spiritual practice is to basically stay there as long as we can, right? So Jesus is telling us, stay aware, stay awake, stay conscious of who and what you are always. So you know how easy it is to get detoured, right? You're in the car driving with your family. Somebody in the car says something that upsets you in one way. Maybe it angers you, maybe it saddens you, maybe you have some kind of reaction to it. And if you're not aware, you'll probably speak or act based upon that reaction, right? But if we can observe it, then we can say, oh my gosh, here I am. I feel this sadness, I feel this fear, I feel this anger, I feel this judgment. Let me give that emotion all the space within me to just be what it is. And as I breathe into my heart, I can say, well, that's happening there. But who I am is free of that. I'm observing that, you see. And once I'm in that observer self, then I can choose how I want to respond. Not react, but respond. With my words, with my actions, with my very being. And that's an expression of our authentic self. So what we want to do is stay aware. Stay aware, stay awake at all times of where we are. My mother used to say that when she'd go to a party and they were serving alcoholic drinks, and she says they would get a certain point when she was drinking when a bell would go off in her mind. And the bell was a sign that says, you've had enough. If you drink anymore, you're going to get drunk. Right? So she says, and I remember being with her in times, she says, I heard the bell, so I'm going to drink water, I'm going to drink soda, I'm going to drink something else, right? And so that bell was helping her stay level, right? Stay conscious. Well, we're not talking about drinking today or getting drunk or anything like that, but we are inviting you to hear a bell that alerts you that I'm now identified with the outer world. I'm like the prodigal out there in the far country. I'm lost in the world. And when you're lost, you're really separated from yourself. We're talking about that state of separation from God. All of our spirituality is about being in oneness, and oneness is found in that observer self and that witness. We can be totally in the world, but we observe it, we witness it, so it's not us. I am in the world, but not of the world. Right? Remember that. So, how do we do this? Well, actually, on my phone, I have a wonderful application. It's called the Mind Bell. And this application, I have it set to go off every 20 minutes. And when that bell sounds, it's just one bell, bing, that's it. I don't have to touch the phone, don't need to do anything, just the bell goes off. I ask myself, where am I? Where am I? Where are my thoughts? Where are my emotions? So often I find myself lost in thought, lost in emotion. And so when the bell goes off, I have a moment to step back, get the observer self, take a quick breath, find myself again, and move on. Center myself. Come to center, right? And so we can adopt different techniques. I heard one author say that he had a spiritual teacher say that if you took a coin from your right pocket and transferred it to your left pocket and did it every 15 minutes during the day, you would find enlightenment in a short amount of time. Just shifting from the right to the left to the right, taking that one coin, moving it over every 15 minutes. Why would that give us enlightenment? Because it keeps us aware, which is what Jesus is talking about. Saying, stay aware, stay aware. Now, obviously, we must have moments of deeper meditation so that we can train ourselves to be in that unattached consciousness. Observe everything that happens in meditation, not identify with it. That helps us train ourselves so that when we're in the world, we're not identified. And during the day, we could also adopt little tricks like that application I just told you about on my phone, but walking through a doorway. Every time you sit down for a meal. Every time maybe you're composing an email. Before sending the email, you read what you've written, right? And before you hit the send button, you take a moment. You just center in less than 5 seconds, and you hit that send button. But you send it in a whole new consciousness. Now you're ready for the next thing, all right? So we adopt different techniques to help us so that we're aware of when we're distracted, when we're off base, when we're in that separated state. Now, excuse me, so the thief is going to steal that peace of mind if we're not conscious of this and not aware of this, if we're not aware of what it is that we're doing. So, Jesus is telling us, stay awake. And I'm joining with Jesus today in inviting you to stay awake using all the techniques that you have at your disposal to be able to do that. And be aware when it is that you've detoured. When you're detoured, again, a quick breath. The way I like to practice it is I'll breathe in God's love and I'll breathe out any negativity that I have. Right? Breathe in God's love. Breathe out any negativity. In that state of mind, we're much more able to forgive. We're much more able to express compassion. We're much more able to tap into the inner wisdom of who and what we are. So we're in a creative dry spell, we take that breath, all right? Maybe we take the walk and all of that, but more importantly, we find ourselves in who we are and we access that wonderful beauty and creativity that we are. So friends, I'm joining with Jesus today and inviting you to stay awake. Stay awake. Don't let the thief come in and steal your peace of mind. Rob you from your essential self. May keep yourself free of that. Untethered, as we say. Unshackled by the identification of the mind. And as always, I remind you, life is consciousness, and consciousness is life.